Hello everyone, hope you're all doing well, and thank you for tuning into Moose Motion. Remember to like, comment, share with your friends, and consider subscribing if you're new. Anyway, let's dive into this clay car project. During this episode of the 1966 Polara build, we'll be basically adding on the final layer of plasticine, kind of. We'll probably have to add some thin sheets later on, but that's for towards the end of the episode, obviously. Anyway, basically the whole point is to make sure that these wheels are no longer offset and sticking outside the body, because, well, it kind of looks inappropriate and not exactly like a real car at that point. And as you can see, that extra probably 1/8 of an inch of plasticine makes a real big difference. Now the big thing is just gotta make sure it all blends in accordingly so it doesn't look like we've stuck on a new layer of clay. And then later on during the build process, we'll have to add some small details such as doors, door handles, and various other little mechanical components. But for now, during this episode, the main focus is making sure our wheels are no longer offset, which is kind of a more strenuous task than one would think, mainly due to the fact that we have a two-tone paint job here. That's generally not the easiest thing to kind of deal with because white stains really easily, so I have to be very careful with my hand movements and make sure I don't get any of that really bright, cool green stained onto the white. It's kind of a constant struggle. Have to be very careful on where you place your hands, which is basically why the roof and the rear end do not exactly have any plasticine on them yet. That gives me at least one good anchor point to always kind of put things and not have to worry about smushing it. Anyway, back to the whole plasticine ordeal, especially the two-tone aspect of things. Now, the best idea for doing this is essentially having pre-rolled little sheets of plasticine rolled out, so that way you just kind of have to place it in there and then ever so gently, with like surgical-like precision almost, cut things away to trim it into the appropriate spaces. Now, it's not exactly very easy, but it's going to require some patience, but this is the best way of doing it without having to work backwards and then try and fight back for details that you have lost, or just making a big smushy mess where then all the colors kind of mix and match, and that just doesn't look very good, and it's really frustrating having to do a whole lot of raking, and I personally want to try and avoid doing that as much as possible. If by chance you haven't actually seen the process with the pasta roller rolling out those fine sheets of clay for the car, be sure to check out the links in the post description below. There you will find the videos for the rest of this build series, as well as a few other cartoons and other various things. Now, I admit I'm a little behind schedule on the car. I was hoping to have a lot more accomplished than what I currently have. Although, for those of you who follow me closely on my other social media platforms, you're probably well aware that I've been trying to make a new intro for my YouTube channel, where I'm essentially making Milton the Moose do a whole lot of talking. He will be doing the call to action. From now on, it will no longer be me. It was in theory trying to help me save some time, but unfortunately I had to do a couple takes on it, and there's a whole lot of editing, especially when it comes to making things speak. In particular, you basically have to make sure my voice is timed well with his lip movements, so it's not exactly an easy task. It's going to require quite a bit of editing, so probably during, say, mid next week or so, I should have that all accomplished. I hope, as long as everything goes accordingly. And perhaps I will leave an example of different intros that I've had through the past, and I can have a little vote as to which one you guys will prefer to see from now on. Hopefully it's the one with the speaking part, as long as I actually pull that off half decently, because that was a lot of work. It took about 6.5 hours just for the filming process. Now I've spent probably about 2 hours on the editing thing. I would say at this point I'm done a couple takes on the voice part, which I'm not going to count for any time's sake because, well, didn't go over well. I kind of have a bad habit of talking too fast, so I'm going to have to learn to slow my voice down slightly to sound like a goofy moose. It's slightly weird talking to yourself, but that's, I guess, part of the nature when it comes to stop motion and or voice acting. I am technically the only person on this team. There's no one else doing the sound. It's all one guy. Apart from my copy royalty-free music stuff, that's, one person only. So also bear in mind the first take of that speaking animation took about 8 hours, unfortunately, so obviously it was a little quicker going the second time round, but it kind of sucked having to basically just delete the entire 8-hour animation. Unfortunately, it just wasn't a very good day. My camera was having some issues, or my cell phone, technically I should say, it was having some issues. Unfortunately, this is all I'm working with, but it's just about time to upgrade, so considering my cell phone is still in very good shape, it'll soon be just the backup camera, and I'll probably get a tablet, so that way it'll make my editing, as well as a bunch of other things, just a whole lot easier to deal with. As always, be sure to keep your eyes peeled for Milton the Moose, and if you're the first to spot him, be sure to timestamp when he shows up on screen, and if you're correct, you will have your comments pinned at the top of the comment section, as well as get a shout out in my next video. Speaking of which, congratulations to Epic Tiger HD for being the first person to spot him in my last Polara build process. Good job, you have a very fine eye. I appreciate people that have, a fine attention to detail, so be sure to keep creating, everybody, and have a fantastic day, and you will hear from me towards the end of the video. Oh, and we also do go over the bumper and some other fine details in this video, so it actually does start looking like a Polara at this point, not just a random blob of plasticine. It actually starts to look like a car, apart from the engine. That's pretty detailed. I've gotten some comments on that, which I definitely appreciate your support, so be sure to keep watching, and thank you all. I appreciate your support. Can't say that enough, to be honest, because, yep, you're the reason I keep working very hard, and perhaps mess up my sleep schedule a little bit here and there, but it's all worth it in the end to see my creations come to life and inspire people of all ages as well as generations. It's definitely quite a lot of fun. Not to mention people from all sorts of different parts of the world. There's some people from England here. Surprisingly, Australia is kind of on the map quite a bit, which actually I'm not too surprised, to be honest. A lot of my sound from burnouts in particular comes from Australian burnout competitions, so good on you guys for Down Under. Keep destroying those tires. I definitely appreciate it. As well as Italy is apparently on the map a little bit, as of course USA, and 20% from Canada. Now, I was also going over my numbers and noticed 60% of my viewers are technically not subscribed, so be sure to subscribe if you're new. I definitely appreciate your support highly. And be sure you have your post notifications turned on so you do not miss any of my how-to videos as well as animation. Anyway, I've bantered on for a little bit too long here. I will give you some more updates towards the end of the video. Take care, dear viewers. Hello again, my dear viewers, and thank you for sticking around to the very end of the video. As you can see, this is now actually starting to look like the drawing a little bit more. No more extremely offset wheels, apart from the engine that is kind of sticking out of the hood, but personally I kind of like that detail. I think it looks a lot cooler than normal. As you can see, we still don't have any plasticine layers at the back, but that's obviously so I can place my hands and not have to work backwards. That's one thing about plasticine. You have to be very, very careful on where you put your hands, because eventually things kind of overheat and basically start smushing into each other. Then you start losing details, which is just not a lot of fun. As you can see, we don't have the headlights obviously on. We're going to have to do some fine-tuning later on with the bumper as well as the lights. Be sure to have your post notifications turned on so you do not miss that. Anyway, you've made it this far. Remember to like, comment, share with friends, and consider subscribing if you're new. Anyway, that's all from me. Till next time, take it easy.